Well, welcome to the Esports Performance Summit. Today's guest is Domination Time. And Tom, do you mind giving us some background on what you're doing currently in regard to esports?
Yes, welcome. Hi. My name is Tom from Domination Time. I mainly stream on Twitch. I'm the first partnered fitness streamer, but I do some online coaching on the side. Some esports professionals I work with, but for the most part, I'm doing the diet and fitness Q&A streams. I try to give it away as a way to reach the masses. That's kind of what my product is. I'm a fan of esports. I've personally done some competitive gaming. I think my biggest claim to fame would be StarCraft 2 Diamonds Ladder 1-on-1, but that was it. And then it was not a whole lot, right? I'm definitely not like Masters League or anything like that. But these days, I'm not so much about the competitive aspect for gaming, but just more for health, focusing on just my own health journey. I've had a long history of severe back issues where I could barely walk for many years. And that kind of kicked off a lot of my desire to take control of my health and just to really learn everything I could about diet, fitness, working out, all of that stuff. And so now I just really love helping as many people as I can.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to hear just a little bit more about your background as well, as far as where did you – so you had your back issues and maybe still do. Where did your recovery there intersect with esports and wanting to help other people?
Well, I wouldn't say it was just limited to esports, but more so just gaming because
Right.
Yeah, I'm from a gamer background and I love gaming. I love the culture, but I know there's a lot of chronic, unique issues that we gamers face, such as, we're having bad posture in front of the computer all day. There's also, in some cases, a stigma against working out or trying to get strong. And people have a lot of misconceptions about what it means to be doing weightlifting or powerlifting or bodybuilding. Those words are already kind of loaded on their own. It's a lot to unpack. It's a whole show just to unpack those. But my motivations for working out was to take control of my health and my body. And I like gaming. And I have reasonable common goals, which most people have. Because if you ask what most people want to do for diet, health, and fitness, it's to, build a bit of muscle, burn some fat, get in shape, look good, feel good. And that I shared that with a lot of people and a lot of gamers too. So it kind of just felt very natural to be making Twitch my home for where I produce my content.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate all the work you're doing on Twitch and elsewhere to help gamers. And today, thank you in advance for all the stuff you're going to share here as well. I think maybe if we got started by talking about meal prep and just some fundamentals and some background as far as why it's important, some things people can do to utilize better meal prep skills to help with their overall diet and health.
Yeah, so I have a website. And part of my website is dedicated for meal prep is dominationtime.com/meal prep. And I take meal prep a little bit further than the typical, I don't know, what's the word, Instagram or Pinterest style of meal prep. Because when most people think meal prep, they think let's cook everything on Sunday. And we're going to cook for the next 5 days for just the lunches or lunches and dinners or something to that accord. And usually it's protein, starch, vegetable. And nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to hate on that, but that's just the beginning steps, in my opinion. And there's one issue that I have with that style of meal prep, which is many people will experience food fatigue from eating the same damn thing every 5 days in a row. And food fatigue can lead to adherence issues. So adherence is huge. It doesn't matter what diet you're doing or dietary plan or exercise plan. If you can't stick to it, it's worthless. Absolutely worthless. I don't care if it's the optimal routine for the average human. It doesn't matter if you cannot adhere to it. So food fatigue is real. How do we address that? Well, the main, I want to say, I guess, differentiation I make with my meal prep is I go for meals that are freezable. So when you can freeze the meal, all of a sudden a whole bunch of new options open up to you. And let me explain. When it comes to the fridge, right, you can keep food in there for like a week maybe. And then after that, you really shouldn't be risking it past that. And even certain foods don't really hold that well for a week. But if you can freeze it, it holds for much, much longer. And chest freezers are incredibly cheap They're like $180 for one the size of a coffin that you can fit a small person into. Now,
but we don't recommend that.
Yeah, we don't recommend
just food only
into there, but just preferably food unless it's like the apocalypse. But anyway, never mind. So I'm getting on a tangent. So when it comes to meal preps, if you can cook multiple meals at once and freeze it, now all of a sudden you can rotate meals throughout the week. It'll help stave off food fatigue. If you can cook not just 5 meals at once, but instead 10, 20, 30 meals at once, it scales economically. Number one, like just the amount of money you have to put in, it scales very well to cooking more and more. The amount of time you have to put in scales very well as well, because to make just like 1 or 2 meals, to the time it takes to prep it and cook it and clean it, that's like almost half the time it takes to actually cook the food.
Right.
But if you scale that up and you're making 10, 20, 30 meals and you freeze them,
so let me
it works out much better.
Clarify something real quick. When you say 10 to 20 meals, you're not necessarily saying completely different meals, but basically 10 to 20 servings essentially of one type of food you can freeze and then save for later, just in case anyone was missing that. Yeah. Otherwise, you got a really busy kitchen.
And so, just to give an example of like my so-called final form that I have reached is not always, but my typical meal prep lifestyle is 1 weekend out of the month is dedicated to just cook like crazy. And we I spend a little bit of time before that week. And I just figure out the grocery list and all the food I'm gonna make. Me and my wife will cook like 100 or 200 meals total of maybe 4 or 5 different recipes. We cook it basically like morning to day, and then we just get all the cooking and cleaning done with 1 weekend, and we have all the meals freezable, ready to go. Now, a couple caveats. Obviously, we still eat out. It's not the only thing we eat. It's just most of our meals are meal prep. Why is meal prep so useful? We talked about saving time and saving money, and let's be real. All of us could probably use a little bit more time and more money. But from the health perspective, it really helps to have your meals figured out and portioned ahead of time, whether you're trying to gain weight or lose weight. If you're struggling to gain weight or struggling to lose weight, it's the same thing. Portion control can help a lot. Decision fatigue can hurt a lot as well. That's something that I don't think people talk about enough. A lot of people who don't have their diet under control, one of the issues they run into is they just don't know what to eat, and they make a poor choice.
Mm-hmm. Usually the easy choice, usually an old choice.
Yep. Whatever they're used to, whatever's quick and calorie dense on hand, cheap fast food. And if you're trying to save money, choose fast food. I get it. But like Uber Eats, that's not so cheap. Uber Eats is expensive, not usually the best choice. It depends on what you get. But decision fatigue can really set in. And so if you are having to constantly make decisions throughout the day, willpower will start to go down. And where people sacrifice that and make poor decisions, that's up to each person. It's a lot of individual variance, but food fatigue or poor food choices can definitely set in from decision fatigue. So if you plan out your meals ahead of time, whether that's just a simple Sunday meal prep or you do meal preps where you actually freeze foods and you make these massive meal preps and you have a lot of foods to choose from, it's up to you. But pre-deciding what your food is going to be before you even eat it, I think is huge. So whether you decide it the night before, the next day I'm going to eat all this stuff, or a couple hours before you decide what your next meal is going to be, I think that's a better strategy to help you achieve your goals, as opposed to just deciding on the fly and like, oh, okay, what am I eat today? I guess chips again and Uber Eats until it gets here,
Well, no, I really like what you're saying, especially the phrase decision fatigue, because any kind of productivity someone can get into, whether you're an entrepreneur or a business person or whatever vocation you may be in, there's all kinds of literature out there and experience that dictates, when planning well can make a dramatic difference in terms of improving your efficiency and productivity. And why not apply the same mindset toward your food, And if the night before, the week before you make that plan, hey, here are the meals I'm going to eat, it just naturally flows in my mind how that can lead to much better decision making. I'm curious, like on those weekends when you do like an all-out food cooking binge, I'll call it. I mean, you said dedicate 1 weekend to that. I mean, does that mean like, a couple hours at the grocery store and then like a couple hours cooking? Or are you really like Saturday and Sunday, you spend most of your time preparing stuff just to give people a realistic expectation of what you mean by that.
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday, I am legitimately like go shopping at Costco when it opens at like 9 or 10 a.m. and buy everything there because Costco is very economical. Pick up a few extra things at the grocery store if I need to, and then literally spend like morning to early evening-ish cooking, prepping, cleaning, freezing, packaging Saturday and Sunday. And
Wow.
that cranks out enough meals for, I mean, if I could like, if my wife and I, both of us together do it, we can crank out like 150 to 200 meals and like we're set. We don't need to cook for a very long time. Now, obviously, like we'll still have random things throughout the week. We might do a random Sunday night cooking dinner or go out to eat. But most of our meals Monday through Friday are just kind of done. They're dealt with.
That's pretty awesome. So basically at that
Yeah.
point, then you just throw things in the microwave or the oven and thaw it out basically.
Yep. Yeah, so what we normally do is like a day or two in advance, we'll pull out some frozen stuff to defrost in the fridge. So that way it can just slowly defrost. And that way, if we change our mind, we can still refreeze it. Now, it depends on who you ask. There's some controversy to refreezing frozen food. I think that's being way too conservative to say like the food's gone bad if you've thawed it out. No, it depends on how you thaw it. But I will say a couple caveats though. For expectations, fresh food always tastes the best. If you freshly cook, it will always taste the best. The refrigerated food that you meal prepped and then you reheat is never going to taste as good fresh. Frozen food is one step below that also, which is still not going to taste as good, but it can still taste pretty good. And one of my issues with today's culture, right? You ask people why is everyone obese today? There's not a good consensus that a lot of people have different answers for this. But if you ask me, a contributing factor that is not talked about enough is our culture of food porn, our hyperpalatability. That's right. We're talking about pornography, but not of the sexual kind, the food kind, right? When you look at Instagram posts about food, it's really about what is the most hyperpalatable, sensational looking food. And if you look back what our ancestors ate like 100 years ago, 500 years ago, it's pretty bland, crappy food. It's nowhere near how tasty things are today. Like the food culture that's gone crazy in the last 10 or 20 years.
Well, even, I mean, hundreds of years ago, but also even you leave the developing world right now today and you find that same dynamic where it's like most meals are fairly basic and straightforward, and usually it's not uncommon to have the same thing every single day because that's just what you have to pull from. I mean, that's most of the world today, probably outside the developing world. So just to reinforce your point there.
Yeah. And so like the way I do my vegetables. So if you look at my meal preps, I don't usually include a lot of fruits and vegetables in there. And that's because I suggest to people, you don't need to meal prep fresh fruits and vegetables. It's an extra layer of complexity. And also a lot of vegetables, certain ones don't freeze very well. And that's one thing I recommend to people in general is just experiment with different recipes to see what freezes well. Like freeze a portion or two and then thaw it out and see how it tastes. Cause like salad, you can't freeze salad. It's gonna be disgusting. The leaves get like super greasy and crushed and stuff. So
and definitely don't microwave it.
Yeah. Don't microwave your salad, please. So when it comes to like, just get it done. Fruits and vegetables, right? Fruits taste kind of good on their own, but vegetables may not taste that good. It depends on what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But vegetables like carrots, broccoli, you don't need to dip it in ranch and dressing to make it taste good. Does it taste good? Absolutely. Is it pretty bland by itself? Yes. But the question is, does all food that enter your mouth, does it all need to taste good? And the answer, I hope, is no. Like that's a realization that we've kind of lost in today's society. We kind of have this expectation of every single thing that I consume must taste good and palatable. And I do think that is a large contributor to obesity, which is the palatability of food is just so damn tasty. It is triggering so many things that our ancestors never really dealt with, right? Like a French fry. So good, right? You got the carbs, the fats because it's soaked in oil, basically. It's got usually seasoned with salt. And a lot of times we'll eat ketchup, sugary. All four of those combined is just a sensation, a pleasurable sensation that is just so damn tasty. I can eat French fries for a very long time. And it's just because the palatability of it is so high, it overrides all these mechanisms in us that tells us we're satiated, we're full. So but I'm going on a big tangent here, but this again has to do with just the simplicity of get it done. Fruits and vegetables are good for you. Just eat it. It doesn't have to taste like the best damn thing. A lot of people will overcomplicate meal prep and try to do these really crazy Pinterest meal preps that they look so good on Instagram. But man, if you try to follow that recipe, you need like 20 different little ingredients that you're going to use like 10% of, and you're gonna throw the rest of the bag away because it's gonna rot before you use the rest of it. It's not economical. It's not practical. It looks good on pictures, but it's just not good meal prep stuff. Meal prep is you save money, you save time, and you are saving on food fatigue. And also, of course, get in your good nutritious stuff however you can. For me personally, I do the fruits and frozen veggies typically. Frozen veggies, they're cheap. And you can just microwave them. You can just boil them. You can just bake them. Add a little bit of seasoning. It doesn't take a lot, and that doesn't take a lot of time, right? The real problem with cooking is not so much to try to get the veggies in there. You can do it on the side. Do it on the side fresh. But with cooking, usually like cutting up the meats, cutting up your protein, seasoning things, get the sauces ready, cooking and cleaning the pans when you actually cook something.
Right.
That's kind of time consuming, and that's where I try to focus my meal preps on to scale economically across the board.
Awesome. What about jumping over to just dieting fundamentals in general? So as people are thinking about meal prepping, whether they're doing like an all-out weekend like you described, or maybe doing a little bit on a Sunday, or however they want to do that, whatever the time period is, what kind of dieting fundamentals, what kind of things should they be focusing on eating? And also, why does it matter as a gamer? I mean, obviously being healthy for anyone is makes a difference, but why should a gamer care?
Yeah, there's the 4 pillars of health. If you ask me anyway, it depends who you ask. But we're asking me, so we're going to talk about my opinion on the 4 pillars of health.
That's right.
Diet, exercise, sleep, and mental health. All 4 of those can impact the others. So you have a bad diet, that can impact your performance in the gym. It can impact your mental health, and it can impact your sleep, and that can absolutely impact your ability to game, right? Gaming is very much dependent on the same systems that you would use to perform at the gym as you would perform for esports, which is you got to be sharp, you got to be quick, fast reactions, and feel your best. So if those 4 pillars of health, if any of them are falling apart, that could impact performance across your entire life. So just a real quick to touch on those 4 pillars. When I say diet, I mean eating generally nutritious foods that's got your macros, that is your vitamins and minerals covered. You're eating within your caloric budget to get you to where you need to be for a healthy weight, which I'll dive on that. I'll explain more on that in a second. Exercise, doing some kind of cardio, some kind of resistance training or weightlifting. This is like just the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. Like you do a little bit of cardio, a little bit of resistance training, you are way further ahead of the rest of the population. You don't have to go crazy, spend forever at the gym, just a little bit of cardio, a little bit of weightlifting. And then mental health, just make sure you're not overly super stressed. If you're just super stressed all the time, please deal with that. There's so many different ways to approach that, but I just want to say, if something is constantly nagging you and stressing you out, you should deal with it somehow. Now, and then the final thing, sleep. If you're chronically waking up tired and you are just never getting enough sleep and you never feel like you always could use more sleep, that's a whole other topic, but you should address your sleep. Now, back to the diet stuff. What should someone do? The fundamentals. Everything starts with energy balance. Calories in, calories out. Holds true. Over a century's worth of science is pointing to energy balance, which is if you want to gain weight, you must eat more calories. If you want to lose weight, you must eat less calories. Yes, there is some truth to paying attention to your hormones about trying to optimize this macro or eat that food or this food, but under the giant umbrella, all diets fall under the category of calories. That is, you must have your calories under control in order to gain weight or lose weight. Should you focus on your macronutrients? Yes, you should. Yes, you should pay attention to your protein, carbs, and fats. Yes, you should pay attention to how you feel hormonally after a meal. Yes, that's important. But that deals more with adherence rather than the fundamental base of, are you eating more than your body's needs? You will gain weight. Are you eating less than your body needs? You will lose weight, period. If you can I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but there's kind of a growing movement where BSers are trying to sell people on it's not about calories. It's about this one thing. Cut out this one food, cut out the carbs, cut out the fat, cut out this. Right. That's a restrictive diet. Mm-hmm. All restrictive diets can work if it helps you reduce calories naturally. So a ketogenic diet is very popular right now. Is a ketogenic diet magic fat loss? No, it's not. But for some people, they feel very good on a keto diet and they're able to naturally eat less. A ketogenic diet can have appetite suppressing effects, which is fantastic, but that doesn't mean it's sustainable for everyone. It doesn't mean it's going to help everyone reduce calories, because some people can still gain weight on a keto diet. So all the BS aside, focus on the calories first. That should be your fundamental question. Is this style of eating helping me reduce total calories or not? And now, how do you know if you're consuming too many or too few calories? Technology is very helpful for this. Right on your phone, just get an app that tracks your food. You've got MyFitnessPal, very popular, it's free. Chronometer is also very good for any nerds listening to this who enjoy paying attention to their micronutrients. Chronometer actually is the most robust app when it comes to chronometer, as in CRONO meter, or chronometer, without the H for chrono. So both of those apps are fantastic for tracking your calories. Do you have to track the rest of your life? No. Is it a very, very good place for someone to start? Yes, because there are so many studies showing that humans are so bad at gauging their food intake. Like what you think you're eating, how many calories you're eating, you can be way off. And pretty much every single person who I've ever helped or coached, it came down to just they were way off in their tracking. They did not realize how much they were eating, so they sat down and got very strict and paid attention to it. Now, again, you don't have to do this the rest of your life. At a minimum challenge, I challenge anyone listening to this, if you're struggling with weight loss or weight gain, get MyFitnessPal, track for 30 days. Just track everything you possibly can. Consider it training wheels for the rest of your life. You can stop tracking if you'd like, but it's a skill to be able to look at your food and get a feel to identify roughly how much energy is in that. So that's kind of like one of the fundamental places I would start with. So what are some generally good foods to eat?
Well, real quick, and I'll just back you up on that a little bit too as far as the tracking piece. It can feel like a beatdown to do that very much, but it can be really eye-opening as well to realize what you're actually eating, what the actual calories are, because I've done this for a period before. And yeah, it's a little bit annoying, but then you realize, wow, I had no idea either how much or how little I was eating or how much certain things were contributing in an unhealthy way to my diet. And then you can make changes. And like you said, once you get a feel for, what a general daily intake is for you in terms of the actual foods and what they are, then you can just roll that going forward and just remain consistent, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So I'm just reinforcing it. I've seen that myself, and it does make a difference.
So I grabbed a prop here because I want to show this. I show this on my stream often, and I encourage people to think about foods as calorie light versus calorie dense. After you log your food, ask yourself how full you felt off of that. Because if you had, for example, chicken breast, broccoli, and brown rice, 400 calories of that is a lot of food. It's a lot of volume. You're going to feel pretty full. So if you look at that like, oh man, that's only 400 calories? Dude, that's calorie light. Versus pizza. I love pizza. It tastes so good. But guess what? How many slices would it take you, Brian, to feel full off of pizza? Like Papa John's large or something?
Four.
For me,
had one 2 days
somewhere
ago.
between, yeah, for me, if I'm hungry, somewhere between 4 to 6, maybe even 8. Mm-hmm. Like I can eat a lot of that. Guess what? One slice of pizza, 330 calories. It would basically take me 2,000 calories, 6 slices, to feel full. That's an entire day's budget for a lot of people. So that's very calorie dense. Take a look at this food I have in front of me. I am holding here 2 Twix Mini. Delicious Twix Mini. I love Twix. This is very calorie dense. And over here, we'll talk about the calories in a second. This is a empty clamshell of spinach, 1 pound or about half a kilo of what would come in from the grocery store for, $5. It's a pound of spinach. This entire container is 100 calories. These 2 Twix Mini are 100 calories. They are identical calorically. To eat even 20 calories of spinach is incredibly difficult. To eat 2 Twix Mini, give me 50 more, man. I will just down these so fast. So can you still eat the Twix Mini? Absolutely. But you must understand the amount of energy that's coming in it and be a little bit smart about when you choose your treats and how you fit it into your day's budget. So that's the main thing I want to talk about in terms of energy density for the food, right? So pay attention to your foods and what's a general smart choice for a diet. Well, I lean towards flexible dieting. Now, there's all different schools of thought. So again, I've laid that fundamental of to lose weight, you must eat at a caloric deficit, period. So what kinds of foods will help you do that? You have a lot of different choices. You can absolutely get shredded off of protein shakes and cupcakes and Pop-Tarts. You can look this up on Instagram, hashtag IIFYIM. Sorry, IIFYM. If it fits your macros. There's a lot of if it fits your macros bros who just pay attention to calories and macros only, and they eat basically ice cream, Pop-Tarts, and protein shakes, and they get shredded. It works, but it's not good for overall health. That aside, I lean towards flexible dieting, which is just most of your food comes from healthy sources. Pay attention to your macros, pay attention to your calories, and you can have a little bit of junk if you want. So the 80-20 rule, right? So 80% from clean, whole, unprocessed sources. So for example, very calorie light foods, because most people are focused on weight loss. So calorie light foods that make you feel full for very few calories: vegetables, broccoli, carrots, spinach, celery. Most of that stuff is practically 0 calories, like broccoli and spinach. Try to eat 100 calories of that. It is hard. It is very difficult to eat 100 calories of broccoli and spinach. People struggle with feeling hungry. You want to snack on something? Get a bag of broccoli, get a bag of celery, get a bag of carrots. Just go to town. You barely have to think about it because it's so difficult to overeat. Fruits are also very good. They're high in water content. Don't get the dried fruits. You want to bulk? Get dried fruits because it's easy to overconsume those. But if you want to lose weight, fruits with high water content, oranges, berries, watermelon. It is, again, difficult because the amount of volume and bulk that you take in with it will make you feel full. When it comes to proteins and meats, lean cuts of meats, egg whites. If you want to get a starch, among the starches, potatoes are king when it comes to the satiety index. There has been a study, it's called the satiety index, where they rank foods based on how full people felt off of a 200 calorie sample of it. And so potatoes, white potatoes, or just potatoes in general, rank the highest on making you feel the most full compared to all our starches. So just don't drizzle the potato in butter and fry it and dip it in ketchup, because that's called a French fry. It's not a potato anymore. So that is and also for the satiety index, if you want to look that up, you will notice that high
you spell
fat.
that?
Yeah, satiety index. So satiety as in SATIETY, and then index. Just, like a tracking index.
Yeah, I got that part. Okay, cool. Being sated, like satiation.
Right.
Gotcha.
Satiation index, basically. Yes.
Gotcha.
So it's just about how satiated do you feel off of however many calories. And so high fat foods typically will rank the lowest. Dessert foods will rank the lowest. Palatable foods that are really damn tasty will rank the lowest. That is, you can eat a ton of it before you start feeling full and satisfied. So in terms of foods, calorie light foods, right? In terms of liquids, I mean, honestly, go for 0 calorie liquids. That's the best. Water, carbonated water, flavored carbonated water. Try to avoid the soda. Having a soda here or two is not going to kill you. Okay, it's just big picture is not going to be very helpful for your calorie goals because there's a lot of calories and it's not very satiating. Can you have a soda here and there? Absolutely. Can you have some alcohol here and there? Absolutely. But alcohol, while delicious, does very little for satiation.
Of course, I guess for most people that's not really the goal, but generally speaking, health, that makes a lot of sense. And
yeah, absolutely.
And thanks for modeling hydration on the video. That's fantastic.
Yes. I'm drinking some water here because talking for a while, I do get thirsty.
And you know what? Like, this may be a little corny, but I'm going to use this as an example because as people are gaming, one of the big things people run into, is time. You got a job or school all day. And then you got other responsibilities, and you got to get your gaming in. And it's like, when are you going to sleep? When are you going to do all these things? Well, hydration, just figure out ways to regularly stop during your gaming, whether it be when you die or whether there's a kind of a natural pause and play. Have a bottle with you, pick it up, take a drink like you just did, and just keep active in your hydration. And it's kind of one easy way to keep doing that, ideally with water or carbonated water, as opposed to, I guess the less man influence, the better in terms of whatever you're drinking. Yeah. But go ahead and jump back in.
Yeah, I was going to say also for water, just a quick litmus test is look at the color of your piss, your urine, If it's dark, cloudy, it smells, it burns, you really should drink more water. You should be ideally trying to aim for a clearish, light yellow type color, somewhere around that zone. So that's kind of another reason. Like if you're going to go take a leak in the bathroom and it's coming out kind of dark yellow, okay, that's another sign you should really hydrate more and drink more water.
I've heard like from like hiking I've done in the past, they could say that the 2 C's of hydration: clear and copious. And we'll just let you figure out the details of that. So
yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, great. Anything else in terms of diet you wanted to focus in on, or did you? We also talked about the possibility of talking a little bit about fitness, home gym type stuff, and exercises.
Yeah. Before we jump into the fitness stuff, I'll say one last thing to tie meal prep and dieting together, which is if you meal prep, you can choose your food and decide it in MyFitnessPal, for example, the day before, while you're going to bed, when you first wake up, when you're on the toilet consuming worthless social media or whatever. Take the time to pre-plan your meals. And if they're already meal prepped, is like a double whammy. You're saving time and decision fatigue because already decided for you.
Awesome.
So, and also in MyFitnessPal, you can enter in your recipes for whatever meal prep you're using, and that will give you your macros. That saves a ton of time in trying to just log your food.
And when you say
the last bit.
And when you say give your macros, can you quickly?
Right. So when I say macronutrients, there's 3 macros, right? Okay. So all calories come from the 3 macros, which is carbs, proteins, and fats, which is they basically can be used for energy. The 4th macro, which is kind of laughed at as the 4th macro, is alcohol, because alcohol you can't really store it, but it still contributes energy, and that's a whole other topic. But alcohol contributes energy as well, but it's kind of a joking, delicious macro that we talk about sometimes.
Sure.
I'm not an alcoholic, I swear. I just enjoy some whiskey here and there.
Yeah. No problem. No, this is helpful. I'm trying to think through any residual. I mean, obviously these are topics we could talk about for a long time. I'm trying to think of any residual questions from here. And I mean, you've done a pretty extensive job of addressing these things. How about, let's go ahead and jump into the fitness aspect of things for a moment. And then if we need to circle back at all, we can.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to fitness fundamentals, right? We talk about dieting fundamentals, energy balance, calories, start there. Fitness, where would you start? I would say the 2 basic things that pretty much everybody should be doing for optimal health is some kind of cardio, is some kind of resistance training. Let's start with cardio. You don't have to do a ton. You don't need to go do marathons. You don't need to go jogging for 5 hours a day. To me, that's just cruel and unusual. Do a little bit of cardio, whether that's walking, incline walking, jump rope, biking, jogging, sprints, swimming. It doesn't matter. Anything that gets your heart rate up for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, that's kind of the optimal range. So if you feel like it's sustainable to get up first thing in the morning and go jog for 20 minutes, go do that. If you feel it's sustainable to just incline walk and get a treadmill or go to the gym and like consume some media on the treadmill and incline walk for 20 minutes, do that. It doesn't really matter because all the studies show that pretty much any of that stuff is good. Are there optimal differences between them? Absolutely there are. But for the average person who just wants better health and the benefits from it, pick whichever you enjoy. There's generally 3 types of cardio. You can break it down into HIIT cardio, HIIT. That's high intensity interval training. That's basically like you do 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, or 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. What I mean by that is 30 seconds of pushing as hard as you can, doing whatever cardio, whether it's like, sprints, for example, 30 seconds of sprints, and then 30 seconds just walking, 30 seconds sprints, 30 seconds walking. The actual time intervals don't matter that much. It depends on what style you're following, because it could be 10 seconds and 10 seconds. It could be 30 and 30. It could be 60 and 60 or 60 and 120. It doesn't matter. It's just the idea of intervals. That's HIIT cardio. There's steady state cardio, and from there, I and a few others will break it down into 2 subcategories of steady state and low intensity steady state, or LISS. Steady state is your typical jogging, your typical biking at a sustained kind of difficult pace for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, something like that. LISS would be low intensity steady state, where it gets your heart rate up, but you can still talk and hold a conversation, such as incline walking. or walking. I'm a huge fan of that. It's not very time efficient because you do have to do a lot of walking for like a long period of time, but you can multitask. I'm a big fan of the treadmill desk, actually. If you want to, because this is a whole other topic, but I'll make it brief and just say tomnationtime.com/treadmill or treadmill desk. There's a $250 treadmill on Amazon, and you can rip off the arm bars and turn it into a little landing strip. I have a video where I show how to disassemble it. It is a game changer for people who are looking to multitask at home with gaming or consuming media or using your computer while just walking really slow. So while I'm working or gaming, I will just do a very slow paced walk of like 1 mile per hour, 1.5 miles per hour. If you could sustain that most of the day, for example, I can rack up anywhere between 4 to 12 miles incline, very slight incline. And that is just a ton of calories burned from there. And obviously, if you're a competitive esports player, you're playing FPS, there is some mouse, wiggle with that. So maybe it's not the best idea to play competitive FPS games while incline walking. But if you're playing something like Minecraft, if you're playing something that doesn't require super high precision or high speed, if you're playing a relaxing game or you're just kind of working on some other stuff on the computer, you can walk. You can walk real slow. Absolute game changer, but not everyone has to do that. That's just my little side tangent for the treadmill desk.
That's helpful. That's good.
So that's the cardio aspect. The resistance training aspect. What should you look for in a resistance training program? I would say make sure it has at least these fundamental parts to it. Number one, it involves the 3 basic human body strength movements that the human body can and should do: a pushing motion, a pulling motion, and a leg motion. Because so many people care about abs, sure, we'll throw in a bonus one, some sort of ab exercise or flexion type of movement. So basically crunches or planks, because people love to work on those. But as a side note, if you really want abs, most of the work needs to be done in the kitchen, as they say, which is exactly reducing their diet, reducing body fat everywhere.
Well, I am curious on that point, though, as far as like the abs go and stuff, as far as, you hear about building out your core, and with gamers and posture and stuff like that being a big deal. I wonder how much significance you place on core development when it comes to healthy back and overall from a gamer perspective.
As someone who has spent, I would say, a good 10 years, I'm 33, so about a third of my life suffering from serious chronic back issues. I've had basically 6 different major back issues in my life. If people want to read more about it, tomnationtime.com/leaky gut. I spent a lot more details there. Leaky gut, it sounds spelled as it sounds. But basically, I used to do and try to do everything under the sun to improve my back condition. And what I've learned is my preference is not to preemptively try to address everything, but to reactively see what your individual variance is for what your problems are. So let me give an example. In the case of squats, let's just say, this is a bit, we're gonna tie it back to the posture and the core in a second, but like for doing barbell squats or just squats with the bar on your back, that's the typical squat people think of. You can have 2 different conditions of anterior pelvic tilt or posterior pelvic tilt. What this means is, I'm just going to change the camera here for a second. What this means is you could have basically your pelvis is sticking out like this, like you're basically doing a stripper butt or Donald Duck butt, or posterior pelvic tilt where you're kind of just slouched over like a lot of us are in our chairs at this moment. But that is just, those are 2 opposite problems and 2 opposite solutions. And so if you are trying to squat and you're thinking about, posterior pelvic tilt, maybe I need to worry about that. But if you have anterior pelvic tilt, that's the exact opposite thing you need to do to fix it. So why do I say all this? I'm saying pay attention to what your specific problems are and try to address those specific problems instead of trying to just address everything at once because you heard it's good to pay attention to anterior pelvic tilt and posterior pelvic tilt. You heard it's good to just do this kind of stretch all the time. It may not be good for you. I've gotten into trouble many times for my personal back issues where I was trying to stretch things that were actually the wrong thing to stretch for my back problems. So back to the core. I think that the idea of people suffer from back issues due to a weak core is very misleading. I am contrarian here when it comes to that because, and I really think, 20, 30 years from now, we're going to look back today and say like, oh, that was kind of silly. We're telling everybody to strengthen your core because it's to sit with it, like to sit down. Let me, is it okay if I change cameras again like that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So let me grab a chair really quick.
Well, and I think this is a good subject too because it's just helpful for people to realize, discernment. Because you hear so many things online and other places about what it means to be healthy, and keeping in mind that I'm not going to call those things gimmicks necessarily. Some of them are, but a lot of it is, sometimes it's a way to get attention by talking about something new, and it may not necessarily need to be talked about. And I really appreciate what you're saying as well, as far as not just blindly following anything you're hearing, even on this this masterclass right here, because learning to listen to your body and realizing, your body, when you start feeling pain, that's your body saying, hey, pay attention to this, something's wrong. And as far as what that may be, you may need to go see a doctor, or there may be a number of things to do about that. But just being smart and listening to your body and being careful about, try to say this a lot, playing through the pain is usually a recipe for things getting way worse and potentially beyond repair. So just a little side note there to keep that in mind as well.
Exactly. Just because you heard coffee is good doesn't mean it's good for you. Just because you heard fruits and vegetables are good, or all fruits and vegetables are good, doesn't mean they're all good for you. Individual variation matters. Your food intolerance matters. Your gut, how your gut reacts to it matters. All that stuff. So that was a problem that I had, which is I heard in the health and fitness media that XYZ was good, so I should just do this, when I was having bad reactions to it. But I continued to do it because I heard it was good. And the same people were parroting it over and over in an echo chamber. Mm-hmm. Individual variation matters. Listen to your body. 100% agree. So the core strength thing, talk about like posture for a second. If I'm going to sit upright, I'm going to sit with a good neutral posture. This doesn't require a lot of strength. Mm-hmm. In fact, when people start to slouch over time and they start to collapse, it's not because of a strength problem. To keep your core upright, to keep myself from collapsing, like if you were here next to me, Brian, and you put your hands on my shoulder and you started to press down, I would try to naturally resist that force and try to stay upright. If I had zero core strength, I would collapse and fold over, right? If I have core strength, I can resist that force and stay upright. Well, the same thing about sitting upright. You don't really need a lot of core strength to resist someone just putting a little bit of a load on you. You don't need a lot of core strength to sit upright. It's an endurance problem. It's a mindfulness problem. People aren't used to sitting in one position all day. I mean, humans shouldn't be sitting in one position all day. Just like with jogging. How much leg strength do you need to jog? You don't need a lot of leg strength. Can you lift your legs up and down a couple times? You've got enough leg strength. To go jog for many minutes, you need endurance and technique to get you there. So while, yes, planks are good for core strength and core stability, I do not find the specificity of that to apply very well. What I mean is it is not specific to the problem. What's the problem here? Sense. Sitting upright. Yeah. So how do we improve our posture?
And sitting for too long, like you said.
Yeah. So how do we improve those things? Well, give your body a break. Everybody and anybody talks about that because it's true. You should be, changing up your posture and your position and kind of stretching and getting up and switching. I think standing all day is bad. I think sitting all day is bad. I think walking all day is bad. But if you do a mix of those, that's optimal to just keep your body moving. And I personally do that. I sit sometimes, I stand, I walk a little bit. I have a mix. So for the posture problem. So could strengthening something help your posture? Absolutely. What would I recommend? The typical problems most people have when it comes to these things is two things. One is the lumbar gets rounded, right? I'm standing up right now and I have a neutral curve to my back. It is hard to see, but basically there's a natural lordotic curve, or basically the curve of my lumbar is pushing inward a little bit. And there's a natural kyphotic curve, or basically an outward curvature of my thoracic spine. So when we stray too far outside of that, it becomes a problem. So slouched, right? We start to slouch like this. Happens to all of us. Mm-hmm. My lumbar starts to become rounded. My upper back starts to collapse forward. And of course, also, we won't talk about the neck or head problem because that's a problem too with people's head posture, but a lot of that gets fixed if you fix the lower stuff. So how would I strengthen that there? One is the mindfulness, understanding the neutral curve to the spine. You should have basically an S curve to your spine of some sort.
Can you show us
don't want
again,
this straight
and not
back.
to be awkward, but just because I think it's helpful for people to see, because we talk all about back strength and healthy posture, but a lot of people may think, well, what is healthy posture? Because like for me, if I'm trying to, sit up really straight, it feels like really awkward, and I think, well, am I overdoing it? So, I mean, can you give us some examples and
Yeah.
help us talk through some of the mental
Yeah.
blocks that can happen there?
So basically, if you have a flat lower back, where basically, let's say for example, let me get this out of lumbar support. Let me get that out of the way. If I sit against this chair as is, it's really not that great for the back because it's forcing my lower back. Let me scoot a little bit. It's forcing my lower back to lose its curvature and just become kind of straight.
Okay.
Is it that big of a deal to sit into it for a couple of minutes? No, it's fine. You can sit in it like that for here and there. But the lumbar support, for example, a lot of people use these incorrectly. And the lumbar support is it has a natural curve. And if you're using it correctly, it will feel very nice. It'll feel relaxing, like you've said it correctly. A lot of people will sit into it like this. And this is the wrong way to sit into into a lumbar support. It's just sitting there on the chair at the bottom, and I sit like this. That's wrong. The right way to sit into a lumbar support is you have to get your butt back. So that way you get that neutral curve. So you get that natural S curve or lordotic curve, or the curve in your lumbar where it curves inward. You get that curvature there. Take the lumbar support and wedge it into your lower back so that way you feel it kind of sitting into that curve and then sit into it. Let me demonstrate. So I'm gonna pick it up, move it out of the way, wiggle my butt back into position. Okay, and now I'm gonna take the lumbar support, wedge it in there. I'm gonna scoot forward slightly as I do that, and then sit back into it. It feels really relaxing, very good. I can feel the lumbar support is fitting into that curve. Where that curve is for you, it might take some people some time to figure that out. But if you use the lumbar support and you feel nothing, and okay, let me back up. Let me qualify that with, if you have lower back issues and you are sitting with a rounded lower back, and again, a rounded lower back is you don't have the neutral spine. You've got the rounded lower back right there. And you have low back pain. If you're using the lumbar support correctly, you should feel a noticeable difference in how it's positioned. Again, it might take some time to kind of figure out where that is. Right. You may not have the same chair or same lumbar support as me, but you should feel that curve into your lower back. By the way, I am not a fan of gaming chairs, since we're on this topic. I have found
you're not the first who said that.
Yeah. I have found very few of those like esports gaming chairs to actually have good ergonomics. Some of them do. Absolutely. I've sat at a lot of these different chairs at different conventions, and I would say 20 to 30% or so were good ergonomics. And what I mean by that is just simply do this. If you want to learn more about ergonomics, go watch some YouTube videos and look at some infographics of general posture. And if you land somewhere close to that, you're already ahead of the game. And what I mean by general posture is really simple, is roughly 90-degree angles at your knees, your hips, your elbows at your side. That's pretty good posture. Some people will argue about different angles, about maybe greater than 90 in some cases. I'm not going to get into that because it's just not necessary for this topic, but go look at those and like how to get your keep your natural S curve in your spine. Go to a office store. Go to a furniture store, go to one of these gaming conventions, and go try out all the chairs for hours. Hours, yes. Bring something to do and go sit in it for at least many minutes and go try different chairs. And the reason why is, think about how much time we spend in our bed. Think about how much time we spend in our chair in front of the computer. Think about how much time we spend outside or walking in our shoes. We spend so much time shopping for shoes and shopping for our car or shopping for all these things that we spend very little time with. But we kind of just willy-nilly will buy a chair or a bed without spending a lot of time in it to make sure it feels right. So go to the office supply store, go to a furniture store and sit in the chairs and see how it feels in your back. See if you can play with all the buttons and gadgets on there to make it feel correct for your spine. So for the posture stuff, that's for the lower back. The upper back. Again, a common issue we have is we start to slouch over, right? Not just the lower back, but the upper back too. We kind of have rounded shoulders. Our shoulders are coming forward, and we have T-Rex arms, and our shoulders are elevated. So a couple of tips with that. Number one is this is a personal preference, but I don't like armrests. Armrests for me is too much of a trap to lean on it. And if I lean on it, it's okay to just rest your arm there and have it support your arm. It's bad to lean on it and then you are elevating one shoulder over the other. This could lead to a lot of shoulder trap and neck pain up here, like the upper part of your shoulder where it just leads into your neck, because it's so easy to just sit like that for hours on one side and not realize it. I still do that today, so I just no armrest. I take off the armrest of my chairs. The rounded shoulders issue. What would I do about that? I would do a lot of back exercises. Obviously, that's what a lot of people will say to do. But to hit both, okay, so let's give some specific answers here. For the lower back, deadlifts, barbell deadlifts are fantastic for the lower back if done correctly. I really recommend you spend the time to learn proper form, either from a personal trainer who they themselves do powerlifting or do barbell training. Those are key words to ask them. Do you yourself do powerlifting or barbell lifts? Because that's a good qualifier. If they just do machine work, which is fine, machine work's fine, but I would not trust them if they don't walk the walk themselves. If you want a good YouTube resource, here are some good YouTube resources. Alan Thrall, A-L-A-N, Thrall, T-H-R-A-L-L. Omar Isuf, O-M-A-R, Isuf, I-S-U-F, and also Juggernaut Training Systems. All three of those guys do such a fantastic job walking through how to perform a deadlift properly. I used to have chronic low back pain. As one of my many back issues, doing proper deadlifts has pretty much made that go away. Well, of course, I did a bunch of other stuff too.
And real quick, you said Juggernaut Training Systems, Omar Isuf, I-S-U-F, and then Alan.
I-S-U-F, yep. Alan Thrall. Alan Thrall. T-H-R-A-L-L.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect.
All three of those guys have really fantastic YouTube videos where they go into how to do a deadlift or a squat or a bench press or whatever, into just really amazing detail. And if you do a deadlift poorly, you're going to hurt your back. If you do it correctly, God, it's life-changing. Absolutely life-changing for my low back issues. Before, I was having like low back pains, that dull, achy pain. My toes would go numb and tingly sometimes. After learning to do deadlifts properly, it's pretty much gone. I pretty much never feel it unless I have like really bad low back posture, like I'm sitting on a couch, someone else's couch, and we're just vegging for a long period of time. I'm not perfect, guys. I still have posture issues. I still will have times where I'm just like, I'm probably gonna pay this price tomorrow with my back, but well, whatever. I'm having fun. So, posture stuff, the upper body to stop the rounded shoulders, the T-Rex arms. Really recommend doing something like W's, like face pulls, doing any kind of it's called external rotation of the arm, but really just the exercise names are face pulls, W's, or any kind of wide grip row, any type of what else is there? I'm drawing a blank for a second.
Like a reverse push-up, like coming down really slow in your push-ups. If someone doesn't have any equipment, is that is that too light of a version of what you're talking about? Can that be helpful?
Well, a push-up negative is what you're describing, like just going really slow on a push-up. Right. That's more of a push exercise. Yeah. It does involve some upper back stabilization, but I wouldn't consider that to be good for this case, especially because really like a lot of bros have the same problem where they're just doing like mirror muscles, bench, chest, and biceps all day, every day. And so they just do tons of push work, not enough back work, and then it slowly pulls the shoulders forward and you kind of have rounded shoulder issues. So to do any kind of pull exercise, so we can start bringing this back now because this actually ties in with the push-pull leg stuff and other home gym equipment. To do a pulling movement is very, very difficult to do with zero equipment. If you ever see at-home workouts, almost all of them neglect pull movements. And the reason why is because it requires some equipment to do properly. So what are some pull movements with some basic equipment? Well, let's just go over all the push-pull leg movements with very basic at-home equipment. Now, I'm going to just mention a link right now that you can kind of look at and follow along with this, dominationtime.com/gym. And you'll see some of the gym equipment mentioned there that I'm about to mention. And also twitch.tv/Tomination Time. If you scroll down on my Twitch page, you'll see I have a Google Doc leading to some different exercise activities, or just go in there and type !training in the chat, and I can be offline or online, doesn't matter. You'll see the Google Doc link right there, where I give example body part splits for push-pull legs for at-home workouts if you have very little equipment or some pretty good equipment. So what are some examples of pushing movements? Talk about push-ups, overhead press, bench press, chest press. Any kind of I'm pushing something either horizontally or vertically away from me. Pulling, what are examples of pulling? Any kind of horizontal pulling, vertical pulling, deadlifts, which is actually more of a hinge or extension movement, but I'm not going to get into the details of that. We'll just call it a pull movement. Close enough. So doing rows, seated rows, cable rows, resistance band rows, face pulls, vertical pulls like pull-ups, chin-ups, lat pull-downs. You could do it with cables. You could do it with resistance bands. Legs, you do bodyweight squats. You could do some goblet squats. That's basically a dumbbell. So those are examples of push-pull legs and stuff. So really for at home, what do you need? A pull-up bar, dumbbells, resistance bands. Less than $100, you can get all that equipment. For pull-ups, you might be thinking like, what if I can't do a single pull-up? You can do negatives. There's something you can look up called pull-up progression, which is basically you do negatives or easier forms of pull-ups, and you progress towards getting to a single pull-up. One last thing I want to say about any workout plan is should include some kind of progression. This goes in hand with any competitive sport. In a competitive sport, there must be progression to get better, esports included. You must progress to be better than where you were before. So how that progression looks could be progressive overload, where you are slowly increasing the tension or the weight that you're pushing. That could be total reps and sets. You're doing more reps and sets, or you're doing this more frequently throughout the week. Really quick at-home example workout, and I'll kind of end it there with the exercise stuff. Do 3 sets of push-ups, as many as you can, 3 sets of bodyweight squats, whatever you can do, and do look up good form on bodyweight squats, because that's another topic that will take a while, but look up the forum for that. Bodyweight squats, a lot of people can screw that up. So 3 sets of bodyweight squats and 3 sets of pull-ups or pull-up negatives. As many reps as you can. Repeat that 3 times a week. That's a very good basic push-pull legs workout at home. You want to throw in abs, do some bicycle crunches, and do planks. Just do 3 sets, 3 supersets of that, which basically means set of bicycle crunches, superset where as soon as you finish that set of bicycle crunches, immediately do a set of planks. Done. That takes 20 minutes. You can do that at home with just a little bit of equipment, and that's a very good basic cardio and weightlifting example. Just get that not min max, but get the best bang for your buck at home.
Well, and what I'll bring this back for people as well, and because there's a lot of talk here, all the talk has been on fitness, diet, exercise, meal prep, things like that. And I can imagine gamers maybe thinking, like, is it that big of a deal? Which we've already addressed a little bit, but just reminding people too that if you're wanting to stay in this over time, like right now, maybe you're not experiencing pain or issues, and you think, hey, it's not a big deal. But these things accumulate over time, and you just don't want to have to deal with things retroactively, in my opinion, if at all possible. And I've said this in other interviews. I'll say it again here, but I remember the trainer when I was playing sports in high school had across the training room this quote that said, "Champions do the little things that others don't want to do." And that's a lot about what Tom's talking about today. Is like, here's a lot of things, small things regarding meal prep, nutrition, physical exercise, home gym type stuff, that making some of these little steps. So first of all, they should lead to significant improvement in overall just life, health and enjoyment, but especially that will translate significantly into your gaming in terms of being able to play stronger, play longer, and play better. And so I just want to encourage everyone to realize that these things can make a big difference if you give them a chance, and just the importance, again, about being preemptive with so many of these things. Any final thoughts you want to share, Tom, before we wrap things up?
What was that quote from, I think, Thomas Edison? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound in cure. Or, I'm not sure who said it, but I think it was Thomas Edison. But that's so true, right? These steps, I'll just say this in terms of gamer terminology, StarCraft, because we talked about that earlier. Those upgrades or any kind of technology investment in a game that usually comes with a frustrating upfront cost, but it really pays dividends in the future. You go as in StarCraft, you pay for like weapons upgrades or shield upgrades. That pays dividends like crazy down the line. It sucks up front because it's like, man, I'm low on resources. I don't have time for this. I don't have money for this. But you do it now, and it's going to stick with you in the future, and it's going to keep paying off in the end game, in the long game, which is really to like have fun, have a good long life, keep gaming, keep enjoying esports, all of that stuff.
Well, and I'll bring up too, and again, I repeat this in different interviews and do it on purpose because I want to make sure it's heard. And even in different areas of life, there's similar type dynamics, like someone who spends a lot of time in an office at a keyboard, carpal tunnel, things like that. And again, they play through the pain. And I know people who have just significant ongoing chronic pain in their wrists and arms and other areas of their back and things like that because they just played through the pain and kept going and just got worse and worse and worse. And their entire experience of life right now is significantly impacted as they get older. It's really easy when we're young to think, hey, it's not a big deal, but it adds up. And you look at professional athletes who, maybe a little bit different physically, but will punish their bodies for a long time. And you have a 30-year-old who has the body of a 50-year-old in terms of their health because of that. And gaming and esports can push your body to extremes. So we're having this summit talk about these things, and you can do damage. So it's important, again, being preventative and just being smart about what you're doing. And Tom, we thank you for what you're doing and all your work through your website and Twitch and your business, and for being with us and joining us on the Esports Performance Summit.
Yep. Thank you for having me, Brian.